And we are back. As always, joining me, my right-hand man, like literally my right-hand man.
Yeah, dumbass. Because my arm's in a sling. Oh my god. When I come out of surgery, my brother Andre says, "I sure hope they did the right arm." I'm like, "Well, no, it's the fucking left." No, he meant the correct arm.
The correct. So you had surgery. You
Yeah,
got cut up. And so our listeners got a little bit of a taste of what was going on Instagram because I did talk a little bit about it. I held back my vomit because it's so gross. But tell us what happened. Tell everyone what happened. Tell them about the gang fight that you were in and detached your bicep in the midst of it. Tell us the real story.
I dismantled the cartel.
This is exactly what I thought it was.
Everyone's first instinct is my wife beat me. Let's let's be real. She's got bigger biceps than me now. My daughter sends me every once in a while. She has like a personal best on leg press or squats or benching or whatever because Audrey loves to train. You know, she's doing her personal training course right now while she's in
Nice.
university, and she just loves all that stuff. So every once in a while, she'll send me a selfie or whatever, and so she posts a picture on the group chat with Megan and I with double bicep, and she says, "I finally have nicer biceps than my dad."
It's because yours was in your shoulder.
Yeah. You know, funny thing, I'm convinced this is a hereditary thing. And when I was speaking with the surgeon in Toronto, he says, you know what, it could very well be, but there's absolutely zero studies that are done on this.
Well, I'm no expert, but I did a study based on you telling me who has had this in your family done to them. And again, not a genius. However, pretty sure I cracked the code that it's hereditary.
Yeah. So what happened was it was just a freak accident. I mean, we were just tipping the stone top onto the island cabinetry, and it was kind of gross. I prefer to feel sexy than gross, but this is a little bit disgusting. But anyway, it was just on a count of three. We all lifted, and I was actually looking down because I didn't want to catch my fingers. So I was looking down at my bicep essentially, and of course, the first thing that was something I heard was like when you're doing you're breaking the wishbone on a
Oh,
turkey. But
gross.
instantly, at the same time, I saw my bicep essentially slingshot back up to my shoulder. It retracted like 3.5 inches.
Oh my God.
So it was a total detach. So I knew right away because, of course, Ron, my brother, happened to him while he was on duty. He's an OPP. So he gave me the gruesome details of his experience. So the second it happened, I'm like, fuck, happened to me too. You know, like I friggin' exercise all the time. I
Yep.
think I'm in pretty good shape. I mean,
Yep.
it still happened to me. I guess it's a reality check that I'm not invincible. But so I have a full bicep detach. They thought they were going to have to graft some of me back together, but it turns out that they were able to avoid that. So it'll probably help with the recovery. But
That's
anyway, my
good.
brother Ron had a full bicep detach as well of the same arm. And my brother Dan was in Italy last winter, I think, and he tore a bicep just pulling. All he did, dude, was he grabbed his luggage bag out of the trunk of his rental car
Jesus.
and he tore a bicep and it was black within,
Man.
hours sort of thing. And my father, the same thing, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, we were out hunting and he just wanted to snap one of the branches in the woods to kind of mimic the sound of
Yeah.
fighting bull moose. And it was just the way he twisted his arm and he ended up tearing a bicep as well too. So, I mean, out of his four boys and himself, four of us out of five have had
So
a
is your
bicep.
youngest brother Andre, who this has not happened to yet, have you guys done a wellness check on him at all?
Yes,
Because I
he's
feel like he's in the corner somewhere in the fetal position, cried with his thumb in his mouth.
he stopped by for a visit today and he's in a full sling. I was like, he says, not just preventative, just preventative. I'm trying to avoid it.
Oh, man.
So anyway, it's my father always said it's far from the heart and it's fine. And there's people way worse off than me, but it's
This
just,
is true.
I'm not used to being slowed down. That's the toughest part for me, man,
No kidding.
is, I don't know how many times I found myself putting a screwdriver in my mouth, trying to hold something with my right hand. And I'm a lefty. So my dexterity is so off. Oh my God. So stupid. But
Oh,
anyway,
well, how's the pain level? Is it
oh, it's
since
fine.
surgery?
No, it's fine. The day
Yeah.
after surgery was like a 9 out of 10. I had some very generous friends that took me home, and the ride was uncomfortable by no fault of theirs. But the next day, I didn't even take any of my pain meds. I'd just been taking the anti-inflammatory to make sure everything's kosher. But
Well, I know
no,
the day of you had, like, the sexiest nurse of all time to take care of you
yeah.
all day
I'm
long.
sorry if I fondled you because I was on medication that day. So if I copped the butt cheek or something, I apologize.
The worst part, that I was very disappointed with the whole process, and I kind of felt that you were robbed of this experience, is that when I got the call, I was in the waiting room at the hospital, and they're like, "Okay, literally just out of surgery, we brought him into the recovery room. You can come up right now." And I said, "Like, he just got out?" They're like, "Yes." I'm like, "All right, I'm on my way up." So I start flying up there. I got camera ready in hand because I'm like, you're going to be loopy and I can't wait. And I get in there. You are more wide awake then than I've ever seen you.
Oh, I had an epiphany when I was asleep. I woke up, I was, I got to start working harder. I'm not working enough. I was booking appointments. I was checking in with my people.
I
No,
was
it was
so
weird because
disappointed.
I've been under the knife before, and you wake up like you're groggy. You say stupid shit, and
I know. I was looking
not me,
so
man.
forward.
So what they did is they put a blocker in my shoulder. So
Yeah,
for like the first almost the first full 24 hours, I had little or no sensation in my arm at all. Right. So they said due to that they could give me a different anesthetic that would be less invasive, and that's got to be what it is. Because I woke up, I felt like a champ.
I know. It's
I
crazy.
know. I saw the disappointment in your face. I almost faked it. I'm like, I can't fake being drugged.
You're like, I don't
I
want to
was like,
disappoint Darryl in
Jesus,
this
this
very
guy
moment.
drove all the way into the city center to see his buddy all whacked out on, and and here I am,
The
normal.
best is I text my wife, Renee's out of surgery. He woke up and he looks like he's completely normal. I'm very disappointed. And she's like, "Yeah, but how did the surgery go?" I'm like, "That doesn't matter. It's fine."
Who
It's
cares?
I was a little
I've got
disappointed
no,
with the
I got no material. This is
and
who
then I got
cares
caught
about the
taking a
surgery?
picture of you, which was fun. The nurse did not like me for that. The real nurse, not Nurse Darryl. All right, listen, brace yourself because this is going to be a strong arm comeback episode. This is Taming the Hustle,
or something of the sorts.
and welcome back.
Thank you.
Everybody wants a piece of me. I'm a lonesome man making history. They say we're all just raindrops in a stream.
So, listen, I want you to go first because I feel like people have missed you. They think, they're feeling bad for you. You got one arm.
I already noticed the pity is wearing off. It's like,
Is it? Yeah.
yeah, people aren't opening the door for me as much. And
It's
okay,
it's all downhill from
I'll
here.
take it. What I'm saying is I'm going to take it.
Take it until it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. My favorite was the day of surgery when you're like, "Can you help me put on deodorant?" And I
Oh,
thought,
yeah.
"Yeah, I'm going to be a good friend. This is super easy. I can do that." And you lifted up your arm and I started to do it and I'm like, "This is really weird. It's like it's backwards." And then I went behind you like we're in the movie Ghost.
Putting deodorant on my good arm because my bad arm's out of commish. Oh my
It was
god.
very awkward, I won't
Just
lie.
take it while it lasts because the pity won't last very long. So
No kidding.
I'm going to go first and I'm going to take it for sure.
Nice.
You put this subject on our to-do list a while back, and actually I get a lot of people ask me this,
Mhm.
is if and how to incorporate real estate in my portfolio,
Yeah.
which I think is a great idea. If I was a selfish financial planner, say, no, you know what, you're better off just investing it. Let's manage it for you. But come on,
Yep.
let's be real. When you promote diversification, I mean, we specialize with the business market. What we typically see in the client's corporate assets is, their company, of course, the bread and butter. We're
Yep.
going to see some investment assets. We're going to see life insurance, and we're going to see real estate, whether they've bought real estate as an investment property or they own their own real estate.
Yeah.
Like I would say that the holding company would own the shop or the
Mhm.
storefront of that person or that business owner. So adding real estate is a really important way and a very effective way of adding diversification to your portfolio.
It makes sense because simply put is that if you look at any real estate app or website, the value of properties and businesses and anything real estate related is just constantly skyrocketing.
Yeah. Well, you know what, though? We do have to bring this subject to the table to have some conversations to make sure that you're kind of looking at it from all angles to make sure that you're making the right decision.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not going to get into any depth at all about the complexities of real estate holdings. But what I want for today is for you to walk away if you're considering this or not, and you hadn't and now you are, is some of the things to consider. So two things. If you're owning your own real estate because it's part of your assets that you're using to run your business, that's one thing. That's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
We'll let you deal with the type of property that you need to have, and it only makes sense that you own it. But if you're buying real estate to diversify your existing portfolio, a few things is, are you just buying real estate for capital appreciation, right?
Mhm.
Are you buying just a property and hoping that you paid 750,000 for it, that at some point you're going to sell it for 1.3
Yeah.
in a certain amount of time that's going to outperform your portfolio? So if your investment portfolio is averaging, depending on your risk exposure, what type of investments you have, if you're earning 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8%, you want to make sure your real estate asset or your real estate investment is going to be able to at least match that to make sense for you to
Exactly.
diversify. But the other thing too is, if you're going to use it as rental income,
Mhm.
it's the least favorable way of earning income in your corporation, for example, because it's considered passive income. So it's not like it's a dividend or a capital gain. It's
Yeah.
it's essentially earned income. So your rental income is not taxed favorably. So you have to be mindful of that. And not that it's a bad thing and say, oh, I shouldn't rent. It's just you want to make sure that it's going to be profitable enough for
Yeah.
you to go through the headache. Because the other thing is, if you're just holding a piece of property to have it appreciate in value, because I do work with real estate gurus that buy land. Right up here
Mhm.
is, buying land is so valuable and it has no property on it, so it's still real estate. You're just
Yeah.
buying land with no building
Exactly.
on it. And that there's no maintenance. You can, you may have some property taxes to pay, but you can sit on it for 10, 20 years and then
Exactly.
find the right buyer and make a boatload of money. But let's say you buy a fourplex,
Mhm.
and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to buy this because I think it's going to grow in value and I'm going to get some rental income along the way.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of things there to consider. If you're living in a small community like Kirkland Lake, it's challenging because your operating expenses are high because, like, for us, it's our property taxes. So our
Mhm.
property taxes are very expensive. So you want to make sure before you get into bed with a particular piece of property that you can actually turn a profit. So you have to be able to have enough rental income to pay for your expenses, to pay for the mortgage, and to eventually make some sort of profit and have a property that's going to increase in value when you do eventually sell it.
Yeah.
So my point to that, though, not everyone wants to be a fucking landlord.
Exactly.
It's a
It's a lot of
headache,
work. Yeah.
and you can end up with some riffraff that destroys your
Mhm.
place. And if you're not handy and you have to
Yeah.
hire someone to change a light fixture, every time
Exactly.
something goes sour with your plumbing, you have to call in a plumber. Well, you're eating away at that profit again, right?
Exactly.
So if you're not at all handy and you don't want to deal with the headaches of tenants, maybe that type of real estate is not something you should delve into or even
Exactly.
consider.
Mhm.
So first thing is real estate right for you? And then what type of real estate? Are you just going to buy some property that you're going to let sit there and appreciate in value and hopefully you make a boatload of money?
Mhm.
The other thing is, are you prepared to be a landlord if you're going to be, renting this out? And what type of rental are you going to do? Are you going to be doing like an Airbnb where you're doing short-term stays
Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
dealing with that? Like we had those issues, man, when we bought out in BC. I don't know if you remember those conversations, but our neighbors were on a rant with us because the guy before us was a short-term renter on Airbnb.
Oh,
So
yeah.
people would go there and party and rent for 1, 2 nights. And then everyone hated me. Like we
Yeah.
would go in there and Megan and I would get the stink eye as if we were going to be the next devil in that unit. Right. And this didn't go on for very long because we bought a unit that was like less than a year old. So let's say
Oh,
this guy
wow.
rented for 9 months
Yeah.
and made a horrible reputation of himself. So
Yeah.
do you want to deal with the headaches of being a short-term renter? Do you want to work with someone that you're going to try to find some long-term rental units? And do you want to deal with, being a landlord? Do you want to deal with having to do repairs when there's some
Mhm.
turnover? Like all of that comes to there's a monetary value to that too, but there's also a sanity value too. Like, do
No
you want
kidding.
to deal with that headache?
Yeah.
And not everyone, I think, is prepared for that. I've actually had clients that got into rental units and sold it not long after. It's like, this is not what I signed up for. Like I
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
maybe given this a little bit more thought. Right. So real estate is a super, super great way to diversify your portfolio. It's a great way to grow your wealth, which was one of our most recent episodes.
Mhm.
but you have to make sure that you're buying the real estate that's going to be fitting for you, that's going to fit your lifestyle, that's going to fit who you are and what your objectives are. Because, what we don't want for our clients is for them to sign up for something they didn't really bargain for and end up having more of a nightmare, more headache, more stress, right?
Yeah,
Than
exactly.
necessary.
I think a big part for me, and I've seen this with clients and people I know, is that when those whole house flipping shows became a big boom on TV, is that people thought I could buy a cheap house, remodel it crappy, and I'm either going to sell it or rent it out and I'm going to make a boatload of money. And they take their life savings that they've been saving, their RRSPs and any investments, and they do it. And yes, they flip the house and they sometimes make the tiniest profit, if any. And they have all these headaches leading up to it. And it's like, if you just would have left your damn money sitting where it was.
No kidding. If you would have just hashtag call René instead. I know. That's
Exactly.
that's why I'm saying it's really important that you're very cautious about how you do it, because
Yeah.
it's not always rainbows and unicorns.
And I think the general public too, if you don't own a business, and I see this quite often, is you get sucked in, right? You know somebody who owns a business and they say, yeah, we bought all these properties and we're making all this kind of money. And you're working a 9 to 5 job. That is your career, which is great. You have a pension, you got this, you got that. And you're like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. But the
No
benefits
kidding.
for a business owner are a lot different than the average Joe who has a 9 to 5 job that's secure.
Yep. The flexibility and the ability to do so is very different for sure. And you know what? This whole flipping house that you're bringing up, that's a whole, I didn't even consider that. That's a whole horse of a different color, because you
Ugh,
got all sorts of added level of risk there, especially if you're putting your life savings to try to make a quick buck. I've seen that go sour. I mean, even the best of project estimators go over budget. There's
yeah,
no way in this day and age, having gone
no,
through the pandemic with the troubles that even personally I've seen with my renos, with shortage of labor,
yep,
shortage of material, and the ever increasing cost of everything, that you're not going to be over budget.
yeah, exactly.
And lastly is the interest rate. Like, our current interest rate environment is suicidal, right?
It's kicking everyone in the nuts.
Yeah, well, some of our wealthy clients are saying, okay, well, I'm sitting on X amount of dollars in my holding company investment. Do I just pay that mortgage off, or do I just take advantage of buying that piece of property I've been looking at buying as an investment? Well, now that's something to consider. Then we look and say, okay, well, what do we need in terms of investment return to rebound from the 2022 correction?
Yeah.
And what do we anticipate this real estate property is going to do for you? Because that could also slow down as people start feeling the crunch with inflation,
Oh, 100%.
and interest rates. But for someone who has the ability to pay off a mortgage that's now at almost 7%,
Mhm.
could make sense. But to get into bed to a new piece of property just to say, I'm going to buy this with the anticipation that it's going to grow like a mofo, but I'm only going to put 5, 10, 20% down, and I have to mortgage the difference at 7 or more,
Mhm.
then you have to make some real careful calculations to
No
make sure that
kidding.
that's going to be worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
So where you buy, when you buy in your life, what your objectives are, what the interest rate environment is, what the real estate market is doing, right?
Yeah.
There's no way, we do not have a crystal ball. Anyone
No.
says they do, they're full of shit. They're lying to you.
Exactly.
It could be a calculated guess, but they're still full of shit because no one has that crystal
No,
ball. We
exactly.
could anticipate that real estate market is going to rock in certain areas of the country, and we could be wrong,
Mhm.
right? So you have to be well prepared to make some informed decisions, that you can make those decisions with confidence. And yes, real estate is a really important way, a great way to diversify your portfolio. It's not for everyone, and you have to be very careful, because it's not like you're just going to say, okay, well, I have I've got $1 million,
Mhm.
and I'm going to infuse that into the markets over the next 24 weeks or whatever with a dollar cost average. And in the event that I need it, the money's there.
Yeah,
Because if you end up buying $1 million piece of property and then housing drops, right? Real estate drops, and now that's only worth 920,000, and you need the
exactly.
money for some reason, you might be
Yeah.
fucked, Daryl,
Yeah, you're
because
losing.
liquidity is another thing,
Yeah,
right? You might not be able to just dump it. So if the
exactly.
shit hits the fan in your personal life for whatever reason, you might not be able to dump that piece of property.
Yeah,
And if you do, you'll be dumping it at fire sale price, and you might have to take a bath in it.
exactly.
So there's many things to consider. Although it's a great idea, you just have to make sure that you're well prepared, you're well organized, you're well informed, and you're making those decisions with confidence before you make those decisions.
I completely agree with you on this. And like you said a few minutes ago, no one has this crystal ball, right? And the landscape can change at any time. If the pandemic has taught us anything, is that things can change in an instant.
Absolutely. So, the age old saying of don't put all your eggs in one basket is very true here.
So true. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I want to stay on this real estate thing a little bit longer, but in the marketing aspect, I want to talk about where your business should be located. We'll be right back.
Bye.
I've said it a million times. Hashtag call René of St. Cyr and Associates.
It's 2023. Maybe it's time we hashtag text René?
How about since you're so with the times, we go with hashtag text Ryan?
That'll do. Hashtag text Ryan of St. Cyr and Associates.
Welcome back.
We're back.
Listen, we talked about real estate, and I kind of want to talk about a similar thing here. And I want to talk about optimizing your business location.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Bring it back to the whole marketing aspect.
Location.
Exactly. And basically what I mean by that, by optimizing your business location, is the importance of where your business is physically located. This is one of, if not the most important piece of your marketing, if you are a brick and mortar location business. Where you are situated could be your biggest marketing problem.
100%.
So we've had this with clients where they find a location. Maybe it's cheap, maybe it's big, whatever. And they sign the lease, and then they begin to realize this location isn't the best spot for customers. And I'm going to give you an example, but I'm going to make it a pizza place where they do mostly takeout only. There is no dining room. So they were like, we can be in an industrial area because we do delivery and it's great. And they moved there. And then they realized that, 40% of their business is the foot traffic from downtown when they used to be there.
Yeah.
And they didn't crunch those numbers. That 40%, they didn't actually realize how much revenue that generated. And then doing the math of how much rent was downtown versus rent here, when they started to actually do those equations now that they're in this bad location, they realized they are drastically losing business and they're losing revenue and they're losing employees because employees don't want to drive to that location.
You don't see Tim Hortons parking any of their stores in any unfavorable locations. That's
exactly.
all very
And Tim Hortons is a great example. When you want to buy a franchise, whether it's Tim Hortons or McDonald's or any of those franchises, there is a vigorous process of location.
100%. You're at the extremities of the town when people are hitting the highway. You're in the center of town. You're in your businesses so that you can stop in on your way to work.
Yeah.
It's not by chance. And small business owners need to be thinking that way.
No, exactly. And that's I talk about this all the time, that me talking to the marketing community here at large is that I'm talking to those do-it-yourselfers or that has a small marketing team or a small budget. If you are a major corporation, you have a team behind you who's going to do this research for you.
Don't put your condom shop in the anti-birth control Christian community.
Yeah. You can't have the condom shop beside the church.
Yeah.
But that's where, you need to take the time to do the legwork, right? If you're a do-it-yourselfer, or like I said, you just have a small business, you're a small team, because these factors come into play. And the first factor is for business location success and defining a few important things. The first one is your target audience. And this is so important. I say this all the time. And I'm telling you right now, every business owner thinks that out of the gate, everyone is my target market. And that is not true. Not every single human being on this planet is your target market. You might think they are. You might be a restaurant. You're like, every single person in this town is my target market. They are not. You're going to have vegetarians. You're going to have vegans. You're going to have people who don't eat pizza.
People who don't like you.
Or people just don't like you. And the next is your competition you need to think about. This factors into location huge. If your competitor is nearby, is the market saturated if you come in? Is their pricing better than yours?
Yeah, is it going to benefit you or harm you?
Exactly. And you could go in saying, I'm a cafe. I have cheaper prices than Starbucks. But Starbucks has a name brand. So they might look at it and be like, well, I get what I pay for.
Yeah, there's a culture there.
Yeah. So you really have to think about that, because when it comes into play, you also have to think about the lease. You're looking at it and it's like, yeah, Starbucks is there. Do you think that lease is going to be fairly cheap or expensive? No. Whoever owns that building wants someone to compete with a Starbucks, right? So you have to think about all this. And then customer base. And when I say that, I think about the challenges of the customer base if you have somebody else in that same area that you're competing against. Are they struggling in that area? We've had this so often where it's like a restaurant fails in this location and another restaurant opens in the same location, but it's a different type of restaurant and that fails. And then another type of restaurant opens up. So we've had, fried chicken, we've had pizza, we've had Italian, and now a French restaurant's opening.
You do the math.
Yeah, it's like, are you kidding me? How have you not seen that this is not a good idea?
Not the right location.
Exactly. And you have to look at it. It's like, what is it? Is it customer base? Is that what's the struggling part of this? Or is it that it's accessibility? Is it visibility? Is it that just, it's only foot traffic and there's no parking lots around?
Or the lease is so high that you can't turn a profit.
Exactly. There's so many factors that you have to look at. Another big factor is customers, employees, suppliers. Can they reach your business easily? The same goes with visibility. Is it easy for people to remember where you are, mainly because they've seen you on their way by?
Yeah, there's nothing that drives me crazier than businesses that open up that have a great idea, great concept, but they're like in this back street that you have to like purposely be looking for them to even know they exist.
Exactly.
Like you have to be seen, man.
And if you're going to open a business and you're like, well, I can't afford the rent in a good location, I can afford it in the middle of nowhere, you've already set yourself up to fail. So take the time. Don't open too soon. Say, I can't afford to open this right now. I have to think of another method that I can afford to open in a better location. Because why set yourself up to fail?
Yeah. To be able to execute it properly the first time.
Yeah, so this is why you or your team need to do the legwork. And by doing this market research, you're checking all the boxes, right? So here's the big question. Where do you start? And there are a handful of things you can do. The first I always say is start online. There are government websites that can help you, local business directories where you can find demographics, where you can find economic trends for your specific area. And those are huge. They help you understand what exactly by location, who lives there, where are they shopping, what are they shopping for, right? And if you have a budget, a market research firm or an agency does this research for you. But not everyone has that, right? But they will do the research, they'll collect the data, and they'll make recommendations. They're not going to tell you exactly where the perfect location is for you, but they're just going to give you the right data and say, here's our recommendations. So one of my favorite ways to do market research, though, and we all have them, is your buddy who's a real estate agent. You can ask these questions because 9 times out of 10, they have the answers. They're going to tell you the data on demographics in an area. They're going to tell you the data on location trends. They're going to tell you properties. Then this is the big secret. Even if they're not a business real estate agent, they're going to have somebody in their circle that is. And they're going to be able to tell you properties that, here we go, are not listed online. You know how many properties are for rent for businesses that are not online? Because they don't want just riffraff coming in. They want people who are dedicated, who have done their research, and who are going to stick around.
Yeah, newsflash. That's a great point, actually. Good one, Darryl.
Thanks. So ask your real estate buddy. Just be like, hey, I'm thinking about, confidentiality. You go in and you stress that first. I don't want to tell anybody, but I'm thinking of opening a business. And this is what I'm looking for as far as location. I've done some research. This is my target market. Do you have anything? Or do you know anybody who could help? And the last thing I want to talk about is the other assistance in research, and that is your local chamber of commerce, your small business development center. They have resources and usually provide the data related to your market.
Yeah, and like you mentioned too earlier, though, dude, they know people who know people, right?
Exactly.
To grow in a community, you got to get out there and you got to connect with people and, like you say, do your homework. There's way more opportunity out there than you'll see on realtor.com or whatever.
And that's a great point. It's like, go to these seminars at the Chamber of Commerce or your local business development center. Go to those workshops, learn from experts, and exactly what you said, network, which can really get you your answers.
I know sometimes it has to be kept confidential because startups are complicated and stealing of ideas and making sure you execute it right. But remember an episode we talked about marketing and how creative it is to bring up and brainstorm a topic with your members of your family or your friends or even like nieces and nephews is like, okay, if I was to open up a blah, 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 this shop, what would be the best location to attract the most people? And I bet you by having conversation even with young children that have a different perspective, could bring some interesting ideas to the table. It could be that simple.
Whether it's through networking with your close group of family or friends and you're having these conversations, even if you just say, you remember that restaurant on Main Street? You know, the one that went through like many different restaurants? Why do you think that failed? Because if that's the location you're thinking about, ask some people. Be like, I remember the fifth restaurant there was a Mexican one, and I thought that was going to be the one that survived. Wonder why I
Yeah.
failed. Or you're going to find out that it's like, oh, well, my guess is they had no parking.
Yeah, it's at a terrible intersection. It was really tough to turn into the parking spot. Like sometimes something that's
Some of the best market research is when you are sitting having a beer or a glass of wine or having a meal with somebody or a group
or a
of
rum
friends.
and eggnog.
Or rum and eggnog. With these networking things, especially like at your local chamber of commerce or whatever, is that you might actually find somebody just through conversation to help you navigate the kind of the last point. And I'm not even going to get into this part of like permits and licensings and zoning bylaws, because you're going to think about all this other stuff about where your location should be. But when it comes time, I've seen this where someone says, I'm opening up a pub in this location. It's going to be the greatest thing. They look at the lease. They love the space. They do it. They call the city and they're like, I'd like to apply for a liquor license. And they're like, denied. And it's like, why? Oh, because there's a school not far away.
Yeah, do your homework, man.
So listen, the big takeaways here to figure out your target audience: research the hell out of everything. Use the tools like people, like the internet, like your local chamber of commerce or business center, and build your data. With all this, you have to realize that we're in a time where things change so fast. So the data that you made today to make your decision is not going to last forever. And we see that sometimes with locations where you find the perfect location, you build your business, it's great and it's going great. Then development starts around you. It changes the demographic around you. And all of a sudden, yeah, you were a pub or you were a clothing store that your demographic around you was perfect, and now it's not. And that's when you have to go back to the table and start redoing the research of this to figure out, am I in the best location? And if you're not, there's two avenues here. One, am I moving? Or two, am I changing my business structure to cater to the current demographic?
Yeah, so if you're in a young family neighborhood and you're selling baby supplies, you may end up having to sell something else later in life.
Exactly.
If everyone stays where they are and their kids
Yeah.
grow up. I know it sounds stupid, but it's that simple.
Exactly. So this is why my crew and I, we all work from home.
There you go. Very flexible.
We've talked about it. When you looked at your new building and you looked at the space, you looked at the location, and you put all these factors in.
1000%. We do a lot of community breakfasts for the community at large, and we have the beautiful Rotary Park that's right next to
door.
ours, which we've already made arrangements with the group to be able to use it. And, in exchange, we're going to do our best to keep it clean and keep it pretty for them. And they're happy that it's being well utilized. And so we're super looking forward to being settled in and having the ability to use that. But location, man, it's everything. Location of a successful business is never by chance.
100%. And if you put in the work, you're going to succeed.
Attaboy.
We'll be right back.
Planning for your retirement can be a complex task. Why not begin by prioritizing what truly matters to you? The ongoing relationship with your certified financial planner is key to securing a worry-free retirement.
Unlock your future now. Hashtag call René of St. Cyr and Associates.
And we're back.
So nice to be back.
I bet.
I hate this idea of being slowed down, man. It's not me.
Well, that's kind of what I want to talk about today is not so much your injury, but something I did through your injury, and you did the same thing. I want to talk about using comedy in times of tragedy.
Oh my God. There's nothing better than laughter to overcome just about anything. Sex and laughter.
Exactly. And I can't give you sex, but I can give you laughs.
Please don't even offer.
But I kind of want to talk about how laughter can make things easier to deal with, right? So really for me, it comes down to, and I know I use this word a lot, it comes down to humanizing the experience.
Yeah.
And that really just becomes a coping mechanism. And the whole thing is it lightens the load, right? So like I look at laughter as a temporary escape. Always have, always will.
It's very effective. More people should do it.
No kidding. It lightens the emotional burden, even if it's just for a moment, right? It provides that breather from the heaviness of the tragedy. And like I think it offers relief and a chance to recharge like emotionally. I've done this for everything. I did it when my dad passed away. I've done it when I've been hurt, or even when I had my nose surgery last summer and I was like on my deathbed because I had some internal bleeding.
I don't know, man. You weren't laughing at my jokes that day.
I wasn't laughing, but I was still making jokes. And I thought it was important, and it was important for me. And because I felt like I was literally dying, I was making jokes with my children and my wife because I knew that they needed that as well. And granted, they probably weren't the funniest jokes because I was really in a bad, pissy mood. I did it with you the moment you sent me a text. Actually, this podcast, this very podcast we're recording right now, we were supposed to record an hour after this whole bicep thing. Instead, you send me a picture from the hospital that you just attached your bicep.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay, but I made jokes instantly. I was like, I had to. Even when I posted about this, I said, your bicep, I think I wrote something like, your bicep decided to take a little vacation or something. Like,
It detached itself.
exactly.
I was disconnecting. That was the fucking humor. I'm like, that's not that funny, but it was actually really fun.
It was. But the other thing is that I think laughter does, and this, again, thinking outside the box, how I always preach, is that I think it builds emotional resilience.
I am 100% in agreement. I come from a family that loves humor. I know my mom gets pretty stressed out sometimes because she's a worrywart. But man, my mom has the best sense of humor, and that is her way of balancing herself out. And I absolutely adore her for it. And if anyone knows my dad, man, even on the most serious of days, like he can throw the funniest one-liners at a funeral, man. Just it'll fucking have you in stitches. But to that point, if you say something funny at a funeral in a respective way, of course, not not
you
offensive.
can't go dark on on your comedy.
I had an uncle, God bless his soul, because he's passed away now too. But I was at a funeral with him about 10 years ago, not with him. We were in mass, and he's sitting next to me, and it's in the middle of the priest's sermon, and he looks over at me and he kind of whispers and says, "When's this guy's going to stop talking? I'm just here for the free sandwiches." And it was his brother's funeral, for fuck's sakes.
Oh my God, that's great.
But anyway, the old saying is, if you don't laugh, you cry. And sometimes it's the best of both evils. You got that the little angel on your shoulder, and you got the little devil. You get choose the high road and just laugh it off, whether it's a serious, intense, stressful moment or something that's, like you say, it's tragic and sad.
Yeah.
Laughter is a hell of a cure, man.
And kind of what I mean about building emotional resilience is that if you share laughter with somebody or a group around you that are kind of facing the same tragedy, it can build that emotional resilience together. It creates that collective strength that demonstrates that even in the darkest of times, we as humans have the capacity for humor, or to put a little, or just plain simple, joy can prevail, right? Which helps people navigate through any challenge.
I naturally gravitate around people with humor.
Same.
Whether it's friends or family, it's just like, oh my God. Like if we go to even a function or whatever, and it's someone that's having like really intense conversation, or someone that's having some really lighthearted humor chats and lots of gut busting laughter, I'm like, I want to be part of that fucking conversation.
100%.
Life on its own is just so serious that there's never enough laughter in our lives.
No, God, no.
That's one of the things I love most about you, bud. Like, you and I endure some real serious chats sometimes because, we're at that level of intimacy with our friendship. But for the most part, we put humor and, ridiculousness and silliness kind of above everything else, just to keep life interesting, keep life fun, keep life lighthearted.
Yeah.
That same resilience you talk about, so by gravitating around people that are like that, we should all be more like that.
If someone makes a joke in a tragic moment where you're down, you're whatever it is, you need to, again, take a step back just for a second and be like, are they doing this? Like, they're probably not doing it to be malicious. They're probably doing it for that same purpose. And I know there are some people, and I know people like this, who do not appreciate a joke in a tragic time or in a sad moment or in an emergency.
I feel bad for them.
Me too. And it's like, sometimes if they were just to take one step back, this could help ease their own pain.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Tragedy and kind of crisis situations sometimes will make people act a little bit weird too. And, the ones that panic and freak out and go down the real dark path real fast are the people that can't really cope with those types of situations.
Exactly.
And then you have the other extremes. I have to use my sister-in-law, Ashley, Andre's wife. If she sees someone hurt, she will start to laugh hysterically. She can't. Like if she would have saw me pop my bicep
She
And
would
it
have
was
been on
like
the
the
ground.
gross.
Yeah.
Oh, she would have been rolling just with laughter. I was like, Ashley, it fucking hurts, man. It's not that fun. It's not that funny. I know, but I can't help it. But it helps nonetheless, because at the end of the day, you just end up laughing with her.
You eventually get out of your own groove and start laughing and be like, this is ridiculous.
She's fucking nuts. But I love it. I love nuts.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think about your funeral or my funeral. Not that I think about them often.
Which is funny, because for two guys in their 40s, we talk about our death and our funeral way more than the
We
average.
do.
I guarantee you. But that also comes part of our lightheartedness as well, too, because we're like, yeah, we're going out with a fucking bang.
Mine's going to be a stand-up special. Like, that's what
Yeah.
that is going to be.
No, because you're the stand-up guy. Mine will be a comedy special, because you're going to do the eulogy and you're going to be my stand-up.
I will. And we've talked about this. You were like, if you say one sappy thing, I'm coming back to haunt you.
Yeah, you're going to regret it.
Yeah, there's going to be some people in the crowd. I call it the crowd at your funeral because it's a comedy special.
Yes.
And there's going to be people who will look at me evil, like I'm the devil. And then there's others. Most people are going to be busting a gut, I'm hoping.
My friends and family will really appreciate the funny factor, not the insult. So
Yeah.
I'm giving you on air permission to don't hold back and to do whatever your heart tells you to do,
Yeah.
because humor is a very, very big part of our lives. And that's what keeps me going. I love humor. I love laughter. And I want you to just kill it. I want a mic drop.
It'll already be killed. You'll be in the casket.
Yeah, don't fucking drop it on me. I won't even be there. I might be there in dust or something, but like, seriously, don't like sit me in the corner or anything. I smell like I just shit myself. And Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. Well, there was going to be two ways your funeral was going to go. One, either you were just going to be, placed somewhere, and I'm going to do a whole stand-up routine based around you, where you're laughing with us and not at you, or we're going to have you cremated, and I was going to go down to like the best strip club I could find and put your ashes on the pole.
Oh yeah, nice.
It was either one or the other. I couldn't choose between
God.
the two. So I'm glad you did.
My final resting place.
Hey, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad your bicep is safe and sound and back in the right spot. I'm super pumped for the next episode. And I promise the only thing we'll be tearing up from here on out is hopefully some laughs.
Yeah, tear it up. Hey, let's diversify our real estate portfolio, and let's make sure when we're doing that we choose location for our next business venture.
Yeah, and keep flexing those comedy chops, not like René flexes his bicep.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next time.
Take care.
Bye.